are and what you've done here at Tech, even outside of the campus. So you can also post up your volunteer work and any extracurricular activities that you've done in the past. You don't have to worry about hosting fees or domain names. It's completely a free website for you to utilize, and it's built upon the WordPress system. So you're gonna be hearing me say this throughout the whole workshop. You have to keep it as strictly as professional as possible, because even after graduation, you will still have access to your website, so that you can actually put it on your resume when you're going to interview. So not only you're submitting your physical, resume to your employer, but you can also incorporate the URL link to your ePortfolio so that they can actually see everything that you've done. So it's a great tool. It's free. I always tell students to utilize it to the best of potential. All right. So for the username, it could be anything you want, something that's easy to remember. Students normally I've seen use their first initial last name just to keep it simple. All right. Password, of course, choose something that you can always remember. All right. Now for your public profile details. So these are the details that are going to populate as your profile account on the OpenLab community itself. So for the display name, we always suggest to enter your real first and last name. No nicknames, tag names, slang names, et cetera, et cetera. So once again, keep it professional as possible, okay? For your major, you're going to select ComD, so it's communication design. And just a key note, our department, the iTech department, we are not the administrators for OpenLab. So occasionally you will come across some bugs, issues, errors whenever they do updates, as we experienced yesterday with the other class. So just be aware that you would have to contact the OpenLab team in order to resolve any issues that you may have in terms of your OpenLab account, or any issues that you are finding with glitches on your actual site or whatnot, okay? And I'll show you how to contact them in a little bit. Scrolling down, everything from academic interest all the way down to Google Scholar, all that is optional. You don't have to fill that information out if you don't want to. But just keep in mind that anything you enter in these fields will populate on your profile, which you're going to see my profile as example once we get to that part. All right. So once again, everything from academic interest all the way down to Google Scholar is optional. So once you've completed this form, you're going to click on complete sign up. And then what's going to happen is going to receive an email notification saying that, hey, you signed up with your OpenLab. Click this link to activate your account. All right. Any questions so far? None? All right. So we're going to move on. So for everyone who has already created their accounts, just go ahead and log in, and then we'll get right to it. So I'm going to log in with my information, if I can remember my password correctly. Awesome. So once we're logged in, we're greeted with a little disclaimer here saying welcome. We have our avatar, which is basically our profile photo. We have access to my OpenLab at the top here, which is your profile page on OpenLab. All right. So as I mentioned before, if you run into any issues, you would have to contact the OpenLab team in order to resolve it. Their turnaround time in response to their emails are great. Anytime I have any issues, they respond immediately to my questions and concerns, and they'll get back to you within your City Tech email account, of course, because that's the way how they're going to contact you back. So to contact them, you can simply go to help section here. They offer tutorials, of course, on their own of how to do certain tasks and so forth. But what we're looking at is the contact us link here. So you click on that, you fill out your information, enter your question, and then hit submit. So their response will be sent to your City Tech email. So always check your City Tech email account. All right. So before we even get started, what we're going to do first is we're going to enroll and join into your professor's course that she created for you. All right. So there are a couple of ways to find the courses on OpenLab. So the first thing is, of course, you can use the course section here, and then you can use a parameter set on the right-hand side to search for your specific course. So in your case, it will be for the schools. So you're going to select technology and design. For the department, communication design, and then you want to make sure that you have the correct current semester selected. So we're going to select fall 2021 and then hit submit. So once we hit submit, everything that's populated with the current semester will be showcased here. All right. Another method, which I find a lot easier, is to find your professor's profile on OpenLab and then navigate into the courses that they're teaching on there. So to do so, we could search by people. Right, and then we can narrow down our searches using the parameters on the right again. So school, technology and design, it loads up, communication design, And then for the member type, we just want all faculty members within this department. So we hit submit. And here are all your professors within the department. So here's Professor Bowers. And if we scroll down, these are all the courses that are available. Professor, which course is it? Which section?
OL07.
OL07. All right. So it's this one right here.
Yeah. Does it say September? Fall? Yeah, I think so.
Fall 2020. Oh, and here it is. That's at the top. Sorry.
Oh.
Fall 2021. You always want to make sure it's the current
Yeah.
semester. All right. So once we have that site, we're going to click on the course. And then all you have to do is simply click on join now. All right. So I've seen that a couple of you have already created your e-portfolios. That's great. So anytime you click on join now and you already have an established e-portfolio, your e-portfolio will be listed under members portfolio on the right-hand side here. This makes it easier for your professor to find your e-portfolio, grade your work on time, and so forth. All right. If you haven't created your e-portfolio yet and you join, you would just be listed under the members section here. But until you create your e-portfolio, it'll be listed under the members portfolio on the right here. All right. And what you're looking at is an example of an open course. An open course is basically a public course. So I myself am not enrolled into the course itself, but I could join it if I want to. And once I click the button, my e-portfolio, once I create it, will be listed here. All right. And also it's indicated that this course is open at the top here. So there are two different ways courses are created on OpenLab. One is private, the other one is open. So the private ones, you're going to have to request membership. So what I'm going to do right now is find an example of a private course so you can see the difference. So I'm going to open up a new tab. And then some of the times you can see that the course is open and public simply by this little tag that they just added recently. So it says open here. So let's see if this one is either open or private. Oh, first try. Excellent. So this is an example of a private course as indicated here at the top. And then instead of saying join now as your professor's course does here, this one simply states request membership. So if you know ahead of time that your professor is teaching on OpenLab, it's always best to check to see if their course is private so that you can request membership ahead of time before anything is due. Reason being is because you don't know when your professor is checking their email or seeing the notifications on time. So if let's say that if you have an assignment due within 24 hours, you're trying to cram it out and you have yet to request membership in the course, you're not going to be able to submit it on time until your professor accepts and approves the request into their course. All right. So once again, it's always best to take care of this at the beginning of the semester so that you know you don't have to worry about joining a course when an assignment is due. All right. So those are the two differences between a private course and an open course. Now, so every course has a course site affiliated with it. So the course site is basically a link to the top here to the actual website itself. So simply clicking on this will lead you to the course website. So keep in mind that every professor teaches differently. So there may have been like drop-down menus or links that you're not sure exactly where the assignment is. One key thing that I always stress to students is always be in communication with your professor. If you're not sure where something is, either on Blackboard or even on OpenLab, it's always best to find out ahead of time so that you know where everything is so you can submit everything on time and that doesn't affect your grade. All right. So the way how your professor set this course up, all the assignments are listed under assignments here. You have additional helpful resources. And if I hover over certain of these tabs and links here, you have drop-down menus. So any information that your professor wants you to know about the course will be listed on the course site. All right. So just keep that in mind. Any questions before we move on? Taking a look at the chat, nothing at the moment. All right, so we're gonna keep on going. So those are the two differences between either a private course and a public course or open course in that sense. All right, so the next thing we're gonna do is take a look at our profile on OpenLab. Also, one key thing, at the bottom right here, it says stay up to date. I didn't mention this in the other class, but they do offer this open road link, which basically gives you all the information for any time they have updates added to OpenLab and the ePortfolio. So you can always still visit the project site here to stay informed of what's going on within the community and so forth. All right. So that's the Open Road community page that they created for students and faculty members to view to see any updates of what's happening within OpenLab. So what we're going to do is take a look at our profile page. So to do so, once we're logged in, we can navigate to My OpenLab at the top here, click on a link, and then we're brought to our profile page. So as I mentioned before previously, that everything from academic interest all the way down to Google Scholar, that was optional. You don't have to fill that out, but if you did, however, it'll be populated as you see here on my profile page. So I have entered some academic interest. I entered a little bio description, my email address, which you can contact me with, and our department website. All right, of course, you can fill out more information if you want, but just keep in mind, you're dealing with the internet. You don't want too much personal information out there for everybody to know. All right, and you're gonna hear me say that again when it comes to uploading resumes and so forth. All right. So anytime you have to make any changes to your profile here, you could do one of two things. You could either click on edit profile here, or you can go to your settings here. So like, simply clicking on edit profile will bring you to the profile section, which we were previously at when we first signed up, right? And you can make any changes here. So any changes that you make under this section here, you could always make sure to save your changes so that it takes into effect. You could change your avatar, which is your profile photo. You have your additional account settings in terms of changing your password and so forth. Now, if you find that you're getting too many email notifications from OpenLab, you can narrow down exactly what you want sent to you. So since I've been doing this for so many years, I have the majority of everything set to no, but you could go through each one to see exactly what you want sent, okay? It could get a little crazy and cluttered with your inbox, believe me. So I always suggest to take a look at this to see exactly what you want sent to your email so everything's not lost in the ether of everything. So any changes you make, once again, save your changes and it'll take into effect. Now, for any reason you need to delete your account, which we strongly do not recommend, because I mentioned before that even after graduation, you will still have access to your account. But the option is there. It's a two-step procedure to delete your account, okay? So going back to our profile page, on the right-hand side, we have our little navigation to our settings. Anytime you join a course on OpenLab, everything will be listed under your courses section here. Any projects you're either affiliated with or created will be listed under my projects. Any clubs you join will be listed under my clubs, of course. And you also have the opportunity to join, to add your fellow classmates, to send them friend requests on OpenLab. Anytime you have your friends, they'll be listed accordingly on the bottom section under my friends here. And you will also receive the notification at the top here, indicating that you have received a friend request. Scrolling through the top also for these icons, any messages you receive will be indicated with a little number badge on the top, along with the message, if we hover over it, will be displayed at the bottom. And the bullhorn icon basically tells you all the activity that's happening on OpenLab. All right. And then your recent activities listed on the right-hand side here. Sometimes it's accurate, sometimes it isn't. I was in my ePortfolio the other day, and clearly it said that was last a year ago. So sometimes accurate, as I mentioned before, but these are just little nuances that happen with the OpenLab. All right, and at the top, it just tells you your student account type, which is student, of course. All right, now for those who haven't created your ePortfolio yet, you should see the same link that's being displayed under my OpenLab here, create an ePortfolio account. For those who already created your ePortfolio and established it, great, just hang tight, we're almost there. All right, so any questions before I move on to the creation of our ePortfolios? None? All right, so we're gonna move on. So we're gonna start creating our ePortfolios now. So for step one is some information about our portfolio and our site details. So some of the information is already set up for you off the back, such as your portfolio name. You could change this if you want, but when it comes to what's already generated for you, I always recommend to leave it the way it is, so there's no hassle with any discrepancy and so forth. But of course, that's just our recommendation. You're free to do whatever you want. All right. But in order to move on to step two, you have to enter a portfolio description. So I'm just going to simply randomly write, this is my online portfolio. All right. It could be anything you want. You can always go back and change it. For your major, you want to make sure that School of Technology Design is selected and Communication Design. Now, the way how the OpenLab team set up their templates for your ePortfolios is that they had created one specifically for your major for ComD, and also one for nursing, liberal arts and sciences, and other departments. They basically tried to simplify everything in a unified manner. A lot of people tend to stray away from what was created as default because sometimes it's a little confusing on how to add content on there. So a lot of students just completely scrap everything and make their own new one. But the reason why the OpenLab team created the template for you is so that it's easier for you to navigate, say, okay, that's my current course I'm enrolled in. Let me upload all my content to just that one course so there's no confusion. You'll get to see that in a second, but just keep in mind that your default template for your ePortfolio is going to be different from somebody, say, in liberal arts and sciences. So just keep that in mind, all right? So scrolling down. Now for the site details, this is going to be the URL link to your specific ePortfolio account. Once you basically continue to step 2, you're not going to be able to change this at all. So what I always recommend, of course, is always leave it the way it is. But if you want to change it up, keep in mind, keep it as professional as possible, okay? Because your employers and other people will be seeing this URL link. So since I've been doing this for such an amount of years, I will have to add additional numbers and digits to it. So let me just add a number 1 to the end, just to add on to the next step. But once again, if you do decide to change it, make sure to check it to see A, it's available, and B, you can use it. All right, but once again, you can hear me keep saying this throughout the whole workshop, keep it professional. All right, so once we have that information filled out, we'll create our portfolio and continue to step 2, which is our privacy details. If it loads up. There we go. So our privacy and details are categorized into 2 separate categories. One is for your ePortfolio profile. The other one's for the website itself. So the way how it's set up right now is what I would recommend. Leaving your profile public so it's easier for your professor to find you on ePortfolio and OpenLab, I should say OpenLab, and grade your work on time. And for your site, you ask search engines not to index it here. All right, so I would suggest to leave this until you're ready to broadcast it to the world. Then you could come back here to allow search engines to index it. So indexing means that if someone was supposed to do like a quick search on your name on Google, Bing, Yahoo, what have you, theoretically, your ePortfolio should not show up within those search results, all right? Because you're not ready to broadcast it out yet, and you're still working on it, fine tuning it, and so forth. So you don't want the search engines to index it until you're ready, all right? So the way how it's set up, leave your profile public, and then ask search engines not to index your site are the ideal recommendations that I would suggest to students. All right, of course, there are other options. You can keep your profile private as possible, or it's completely hidden, but just keep in mind, it makes it harder for your professor to find you and grade your work on time. All right, and of course, for the site itself, you can make it visible to only you and so forth. So the privacy options are there. You can change them at any time, but just keep in mind that the harder it is to find your stuff, the harder it is for your professor to grade your work. All right. Any questions in regards to privacy settings before we move on to step 3? Check the chat, nothing. All right, moving on. So for step 3 is basically uploading an avatar that represents your ePortfolio. As designers, this is a great opportunity if you have a logo that you have created for yourself to represent your ePortfolio on here. So you simply click on choose file, locate it on your computer, and then upload the image on here, and it'll populate your avatar here. All right, this is optional. If you don't have one yet, don't worry about it. You can skip on to the next step by clicking on next step. So for step 4, the final step, this is optional as well, but you have the opportunity to invite specific members to your ePortfolio. So let's say if I want to invite myself, don't know why, to my own work, I could do so by searching my name, clicking on that, and then once I hit finish, I'll receive the email notification to my inbox saying, hey, I want to invite myself to my own ePortfolio. Don't know why, but it's there. If you click on the wrong name, you can simply remove the invite and then click finish, and you don't have to worry about sending anything. This is optional. You don't have to do this, but if you want to invite specific classmates so they stay informed of what you're doing on your work and so forth, you could do so here. All right, so once we're done, click finish, and we're going to be brought to our ePortfolio's profile page. It's separate from our actual profile page on OpenLab, all right? So just to recap, once we log in, to navigate to our profile page on OpenLab, we go to my OpenLab here. All right. Once we're in, as you can see, it no longer says create an ePortfolio, it says my ePortfolio site. All right, but that profile page that we were just at is located directly under here. So we click on that and we're brought back to the same page we were here before. All right, so anytime you have recent posts or a post that you created will be populated on the recent posts here. As you can see, some of the stuff is already populated for you. This is the default template I was talking about, which you'll see in a second. Any changes you need to do to your ePortfolio profile itself, you could do under the settings here or edit the profile through here. All right, so here we are back from where we started when we were creating it. As you can see, our ePortfolio link is locked down. Can't use it anymore, can't make any changes to it and so forth. So if you have to change anything to it, you could do so here, save the changes. And then for settings, once you finalize your work, you're ready to broadcast and showcase it to the world and so forth, you come down here back to public and then allow search engines to index your site. All right. Now, for any reason you just want to have a fresh start, you want to create a brand new ePortfolio, scrap everything that you previously did, or you just broke the site entirely, you could do that by clicking on delete ePortfolio. This will just delete your ePortfolio and not your profile on OpenLab. All right. So once you do that, you click on that. It's a two-step process. It's like, are you sure there's no way going back and so forth? You understand by clicking that checkbox and then delete the ePortfolio. And then once you go back to your profile, you will see that it'll say create an ePortfolio link will be established again. All right. Any questions before we see our site? All right, quiet crowd. All right, so now for the grand finale here is our actual ePortfolio site. As bland as it looks, don't worry about it. You can spice it up. But this, what you're looking at, is the default template that the OpenLab team had created for you. So going through it from top to bottom, we have our site title, right? Normally, the other templates and themes, they have the site tagline, which falls underneath it. But for this specific theme, you just have the site title for the site identity. To the right of that, we have our navigation. So if you hover under coursework, you'll see that there are all these links and categories that represent specific courses within ComD. So let's say that if you needed to submit an assignment for typographic design, you click on that, and then you would simply add your content onto the specific section here. All right. You have the section page about me here, which you could edit, rearrange, what have you. Now with your ePortfolio is basically on a what you see is what you get basis. So whatever the team has provided for you in terms of themes, plugins, and so forth, that's what you only have available for you to use. It's not like that you could go on to, let's say you're searching the web and you came across a nice WordPress site, like, oh, I love that theme. I want to take that, background or whatever plugins they're using and import it or incorporate it into my stuff. Unfortunately, you can't. It's whatever is available for you to use within the dashboard, which we'll get to in a second. All right. And by default, all your recent work and posts, I should say, will be sent to the home page here by default. All right. So to make any changes and add content to your ePortfolio, everything is done through the dashboard. To navigate to the dashboard, you can do one of two things. You can simply click on your name at the top here or hover over it and click on dashboard. You have also a link to your comments by clicking the little speech bubble here, and a quick link to create new posts, add new media, and create new pages as well. All right, so to navigate to the dashboard, I'll just click on my name at the top. And here we are in the nitty gritty of the background of our website. So at a glance, shows you all the information for your website. So currently I have about 4 posts, 1 page created for me, 1 default comment, and I have a total of 300 megabytes of storage space, or cloud space, I should say. Now, as designers, we are working with high resolution images, like sometimes even a JPEG or TIFF or RAW file goes up to a gig or so. When you're working with any design work, I always recommend to students, say that you're working in Photoshop, Illustrator, what have you. Anytime you are exporting something for the web, go to File, Export, and Save As, or Save for Web. That basically takes your design or image and compresses it in file size to take up less space, but tries to keep the same amount of quality into your work, all right, without having to distort it or make it look pixelated. All right, so that saves space when it comes to uploading content and media onto your ePortfolio page. And anytime you upload media onto here, everything is stored under the media library here on the left-hand side. All right, now there's a workaround. Let's say that you have additional images on your either Dropbox, your Google, Google Drive, right? I don't know why I blanked out on that, or your OneDrive with Microsoft. Make sure that those images and files are set to public. So all you have to do is simply take the source code from that and then just import it or insert using a URL link into your ePortfolio so that it doesn't take away from your 300 megabytes of storage space. All right, so there are different works around when it comes to uploading content. So just keep in mind that you're only limited to 300 megabytes within storage space within your ePortfolio. Of course, you could take it from different sources and then it won't eat away from that, all right? So the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna take a look at posts. So here are all the posts that are created for you by default. You don't have to use these, you could just delete them if you don't want to. And then right next to each section, you'll see that it says like a draft since it hasn't been published yet, and then block editor. Now there's two different editors, I should say, to add content to your site. One is the block editor, excuse me. The other one is the classic editor, all right? So the difference between the two is that with the block editor, there are more features and options for you to utilize. And it's like a more of a visual aesthetic in order to upload content onto your site. And as in contrast to what the classic editor is, the classic editor is basically simplified. If you don't need all those fancy stuff onto what that block editor offers you, switching your editor to classic editor just keeps everything simplified. Is easy, in my opinion, is a lot easier to work with. So you don't have to worry about anything. But if you want to fine tune your content on your web page, then the block editor is a great choice to do. We could spend hours upon hours going through each of the options that the block editor offers you. But for this workshop, we're just going to keep it simple. And I always say to students that sitting during this ePortfolio workshop for an hour, you're not going to get everything in one shot. I always suggest to students to sit down, take a moment, like whenever you got free time, sit down, play around with it, see what does what, break your site if you need to. Don't worry, because you can always contact me and I'll try to help you out, or you can email us or completely scrap it and start a new one from fresh. So play around with it, see what works best for you and what you're trying to convey to your audience when they come to visit your site. So sit in for this workshop for an hour, you're not going to get everything until you sit and play around with it to see what works and what's best for what you're trying to convey. All right, so just keep that in mind. So what we're going to do is going to create a new post. So I can do one of two things. I could click add new here, or simply go up top here to create a new post from here. So before we even do that, let's take a look at our menu. All right, so let me open up my page on the new site, on the tab, I should say. So as I mentioned before, this is your menu section or navigation. So what I always recommend students to do is take a look at their menu section by hovering over appearance and then select the menus, or you can simply hover over your name at the top. If you're outside of it here, select the menus here as well. All right. So the reason why I have students take a look at their menu is so that they know exactly how the structures worked when it comes to adding pages and so forth. So you want to make sure that you're under the top primary menu. Sometimes if you create your ePortfolio from scratch, you're sometimes on the secondary social, right? You want to make sure to select top primary and then hit select. And then the menu structure will populate with what's currently being displayed on your site right now. All right. Scrolling down, you'll notice that there's a little indentation between coursework and graphic design principles. Anytime you have an indentation within here, it signifies that it's a drop down, whatever the parent is. In this case, it's coursework. So if I'm supposed to drag this to the right a little, you'll allow me to, right? Now, if I save the menu, let me go with that. This graphic design principles is going to be shown outside of this drop down menu. So if I refresh my page, there it is. All right. So that's just how to create and move things around in terms of your navigation. Now, if I want to put it back under the coursework section here, I could do so by clicking on it and then simply dragging it to the right, as you can see with the little dotted line, that this will now be a drop-down menu here. But what's important is the auto add pages section here. Now, during midterms and finals, normally during finals, I should say, a lot of students contact us to find out, hey, you know, I'm adding all this content and pages onto my site, but it's not showing up on my navigation bar. What's going on? So what I normally do during my workshops is I tell students to turn this on so that anytime you create new pages, it'll automatically add it to the top tier level on your navigation bar on your site. So you don't have to worry about going to find it and seeing where it is and then having to actually manually add it on the pages section here and then selecting it and then adding it to the menu. Right. So once you have it automatically added, you don't have to worry about it because it'll be there. And then all you have to do is just move it around if you don't like the position of it. All right. So once we have that checked off, always make sure to save any changes you make by clicking on Save Menu here. So now if we were supposed to create a new page, that page will automatically be added onto the section here. So if I refresh this, graphic design principles should be back where it should be. Yep. All right. So that's always important to make sure that this is selected and turned on so you don't have to worry about it. Once again, this is just our recommendation. You can select whatever you want, however you want it, all right? And then as you notice on the right of each section, these are there's a description here to let you know what this link is. So the default way that the OpenLab team created these are classified as categories. So if you say, let's say you want to create a post for a specific an assignment for a category. In this case, say I had homework in foundation drawing, right? I create a post, did my assignment, copied and pasted or uploaded any images I needed associated with it. And then on the right, which you'll see in a second, you'll select the category in which that's supposed to be sent to, so that whenever you submit the post or publish it, it will get sent to that category. So let's say that a professor from foundation drawing wants to see it, they'll click on their category and then see your work there. So we're going to get to that in just a bit. All right, so to do that, we're going to select post. All right, so as I mentioned before, different ways to have your editor selected. So what we're going to do is add new. And then what's going to be displayed here is our block editor. All right, if this is your first time using your ePortfolio and block editor, you're going to get a little disclaimer, a little tutorial how to use block editor. You can close that X button now if you're following along, because I'm about to show everything through here as well. All right, so here we're going to add a title, so it could be anything you want. So for this example, this is my first post. All right. Now I have some placeholder text, is basically lorem ipsum that I use for examples. All right, so I'll click into this block and then paste my information here. Okay. Now, as you notice right off the bat, displayed in red is that I have to select a category of where this post is going to be posted to. So to do so, I'm going to navigate to the post section here. So you have two options, post options and block options. So under the post section, you want to select a specific category of where you want to send to. So for this case, let's say this is an assignment or my first post for portfolio. It's a great example since this is ePortfolio. So now that whenever I hit publish here, this post is going to get sent to the portfolio section of my site. All right. So it's always best to establish that ahead of time so you know exactly where everything's going. So now this is what you're looking at right now. This here is a block. Text block or paragraph block. To add additional blocks, you can simply click on the plus button at the top left corner here. And then these are all the available blocks that you have to use at your discretion. So you can add images, specific files. This comes in handy if you're uploading assignments that need to be sent as PDFs onto your site, and so forth. You have options to add URL links from YouTube onto here or any videos. There are tons and tons of blocks. Like I mentioned before, we can spend hours on this and not even scratch the surface of what they have available for you. So it's always best to go home, or well, you're already home or whatnot, sit with it, play around with it, see what best works for whatever you're trying to do with your site. All right. So let's say I want to add an image associated for this specific post. So to do so, I'm going to hit the plus button. And let's, instead of scrolling down for image, I can actually just type it in and it'll just give me all the image related blocks to use. So I'm just going to simply use a regular image here. And now I'm going to upload it. All right. So you have options to insert from URL. As I mentioned before, if you have it on Google Drive, OneNote, or your Dropbox, you can make sure that those links are those media files are set to public, so you can actually insert the URL link from there so that it implements it onto your site here. So for this case, I'm going to simply click on upload. And remember, everything that you upload media-wise onto your ePortfolio gets sent to the media library. So let's use the stock image that I have. Now, I have some recommendations in terms of stock images. Reason why I'm using the stock image is because you want to use images that are free to use. You don't want to take someone else's work from like a simple Google search or whatnot and then paste it on your site, because A, it doesn't belong to you. B, you have to give credit from wherever you're taking your sources from. So it's always best to work with images that either you own, that you designed, or that they're free stock from specific websites. One recommendation I always suggest that I actually use in the field for my clients is Pixabay. Pixabay is a great, I don't work for Pixabay, I'm not advertising for them, but it's just a great tool to use. So these are great free stock images to work with. So you can search for anything, save it, and then work with it. You can actually create an account and so forth, but you don't have to. Another method to find free stock images is just simply using Google, right? So let's say we search for cats, we go to images, all right? And then for tool section here, you want to make sure to change the usage rights to Creative Commons license. So this will basically populate your search results with everything that's stock free. All right, if you guys want this site, I could just simply copy this and put it in the chat section, if I can find it. 1 second. All right, so here's the link to the site. All right, great tool to use. I use it the most. So it's always great to use images either you own or they're free stock images. And I also think Adobe, I'm not sure, quote me on this, but I think Adobe has their own stock image program. I think as City Tech students, you may have access to it or not, but once again, don't quote me on that. So it's always best to work with images that you work with. Another thing is when you're uploading images onto your ePortfolio, you always have to take into consideration to add alternative text to it. So an alternative text for an image helps those who are ADA associated, those who have disabilities, sight impairment and so forth. So whenever they're using a disability program such as, I forgot a couple of names of them, but sometimes they have the program installed onto the computer. So what happens is they're using a website, the software will scan the page and relay what's being presented on there. So with the alternative text that you're entering, helps that software dictate what is being presented in that image. So it doesn't have to be a sentence long, you just give it a brief description. So I'm just gonna write, this is the picture of a guitar, cup of coffee, and headphones. So just keep in mind, as designers, especially when you work in the industry, especially websites in general, always add your alternative text, because it also helps sitemaps and bots to actually see where everything is, to basically boost your SEO to a top tier, so that it's easily searchable and basically puts you on the top rank. All right. So you also have additional options. While I have this selected here. So on the right, while I'm under the block option, you have different styles. So you can have this as a rounded. If it has a long description or caption, you can have that set to there as well. All right. And also you can play around with the placement and position, such as a text wrap. So right now I have it center aligned. There's no alignment at the moment. So if I wanted the text to wrap around to the right of the image, I could just simply change the alignment to align left. So once the image is aligned to the left, then the text wraps on the right. If the image is aligned to the right, then the text wraps around to the left. So you'll see the difference once I select it. And I'm just going to downsize it so you can see the text take into effect. All right, so you could change the position and size of the image by clicking the anchor points left or right. And all I'm simply is clicking and dragging. All right, so this basically makes your site more presentable in terms of design and aesthetics. So playing around with text wrap is a great way to basically catch the eye of your audience. All right. And then let's say if I have an assignment that needs to be attached for this post. All right. To do so, I'm going to add the file option. And as I mentioned before, anytime you add any media types onto your ePortfolio, it will basically get sent to your media library here. Okay. And it eats away at your 300 megabytes. So just always keep that in mind. So to upload a file, I'm going to simply click on upload file. I have a default template here that I created. Where's my PDF? Here's a pretend assignment of the life of a workshop instructor by Daniel Alfonso. This is all just placeholder text. So keep in mind, there are a couple of methods to upload assignments. One method is so that you just basically upload a PDF, which I always recommend, so that it's just right there. They click on a link and it opens up in a new tab, so your professors can read it, no problem. All right. So to do that, I'm just going to simply upload that PDF. Right. And here it is. And it basically takes the name of whatever the file extension is. So since this is the title I gave it, that's the link that's going to be sent to. And you also have the option to download it as well. All right. Now, the other method is, say the assignment that I don't want to upload a file, but I'll just copy and paste it. Keep in mind that when you just copy and paste it from a text editor program, with the way how WordPress works is that it simplifies the text to its basic form. So if you have special display fonts or any type of italicization of it or a specific color that you use in the document, it's not going to take all that into consideration. It just basically simplifies it. So what I'm going to do, I already copied the information on the PDF, and I'm just going to simply add a new block paragraph and then paste it. So as you can see, it does keep the italicized, but it did not take the actual font color that I had in it. And as you can see, it took the page number here, right? And also my whole title of it is completely off and not large. So anytime you want to make changes to this, you have to use the tools provided for you at the top here. All right, bold that and so forth. All right. So once again, if you're using a text editor program like Microsoft Word or even on the Mac Pages, it just takes all that information and simplifies the text. So it's not going to look exactly how you have it in that PDF document. So that's always, I always recommend to students to upload the PDF. Now, if you're working with your resume, this is what comes in, this is very important to do. Create 2 resumes for yourself. One that you actually give to employers and you submit online with your personal information, such as your home address, your phone number, your personal email address, and what have you. And then the other one you create is the one without that information. You're dealing with the web internet. You don't want that personal information out there and get calls at 4 a.m. in the morning, you know? You don't want all your private information out there. So that's why I always recommend to students to create 2 versions of your resume. One that you post online, the other one that you actually personally give to your employers, okay? So with that second version, without your information, you upload that PDF here, just how you do it. Or you create a dedicated page for it here and then upload it that way. So always have a version of the PDF of your resume without that personal information on there, all right? So once I have everything set, I know that this is going to my portfolio category. I'm going to publish it. All right. But of course, you have the option to save as draft, so you could come back to it at a later time. You could preview it to see how it looks either on a mobile device, a tablet, and so forth. So if I want to take a look at this beforehand to see how it looks, I'm going to get rid of these tabs. We don't need those. Preview it. Let it load up. And this is how it's going to be displayed on my site. So you'll notice that it already says that this is under my portfolio section, right? People, whoever's logged in, have the option to add comments to it if they want to, if I have the option turned on. And if I scroll down, there it is. All right. So if my professor wants to see my assignment, they'll simply click on the link and it opens up within the same tab so they can see the work and grade me with the appropriate grade that I deserve. All right. Any questions so far with uploading images, assignments, what have you? Take a look at the chat. None? All right. So like I mentioned before, sit in for an hour within this workshop. You're not going to get everything. So play around with it, see what best works with how you want to convey and design your whole e-portfolio too. All right. So the next thing we're going to take a look at is pages, really briefly, since we already covered posts. And basically with pages and posts, it's the same thing. You have your classic editor and your block editor. So for the pages, I'm going to show you how it looks with a classic editor. All right. So before we even get to that, I'm going to show you media. So your media library is going to display everything that's currently uploaded. So there goes that image that I had along with the PDF. These other images that you see here, all these were basically templates or default images that came with a theme that the OpenLab team created for you. All right, so these are just presently there. You can get rid of them if you don't want to use them and so forth, but just keep in mind that if you delete it from here, then they will be deleted off your actual ePortfolio site itself too. All right. So from here, I'm going to take a look at our themes. Oh, pages, sorry. Okay. Sorry, that was my coworker. So right now, this is the current page here. All right, this is my About Me page. So as you can see, it says this block editor. So if I want to get rid of this, I can simply hover over it, click on trash, it'll be sent to the trash. But if I say click on trash by accident, you can simply recover it by simply going back into your trash section here, right? Selecting it and then restoring it, or you have the option to delete it permanently, but I don't want to do that. So I restored it, go back to all, here's my About Me page. And once again, that page is being displayed on the navigation here, okay? So let's say I want to create a page called Art 101. So what I'm going to do is add new, right? And now by default, my block editor is selected. To change it to Classic Editor, I'll simply click on the little 3 dots here and then switch it to Classic Editor here. So you have additional options, but what we're looking for is switching it to Classic Editor. So this is what Classic Editor looks like. It simplifies all that information into like the title here. So for this page, I'm going to say, let's give it a pretend course of art 1101. Right? If I have my placeholder text already selected, going back here, pasting it. Once again, it simplifies the text to its basic form. Right? Let's pretend this is the assignment. So the publishing option here, it no longer says publish at the top. It just simply says publish at the bottom here. So I'm going to publish this. And of course, both in Classic Editor and Block Editor, you have the option to publish at a later date. You have options to make it password protected or completely private, and so forth. You have your additional options if you want to change that when you have an assignment due. Say you already finished it, but you wanted to publish automatically at a specific date, you could do so through there. All right. And now another thing is the featured image. So you notice that there's a lot of these posts that have been created off the back here, and they have these blank templates. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set a feature image for the specific page. All right. And I'm going to do the same thing for the post. So I'm going to use that same image that I have here. All right. Select it and then set feature image. And then make sure to update. So it no longer says publish, it now says update. So that's the equivalent of saving your work. And then when you're working with your ePortfolio, I can't stress this enough. Never work directly within the browser itself, because especially during finals. So say you're working hours upon hours typing up this lovely essay or bio, what have you, right? And then what happens? You hit the power button by accident, the browser crashes, there goes your 2 hours down the drain. Always work on a text editor program and always save your work and have backups of your work, because you're dealing with computer and technology. It's not perfect. So when you're working with an assignment, it's always best to work in a text editor program and then copy and paste it onto your ePortfolio or just upload that file itself, right? So always have backups and backups of your work so you have all that just in case if anything was supposed to happen, all right? And then if you're actually typing on here, always keep updating your work so that it saves it. Okay, so since I already added this page, if I refresh this page here, our 1101 should be featured here. All right, and this is the featured image here. Now for the featured image for a post, let's go back to the post. Now, since I didn't publish this yet, I'm going to go back into it. I'm going to go to the right-hand side here, make sure I'm under the post section here, set the feature image for it using the same image. All right, and I'm going to publish this. All right, so now if I go back to my home page, there goes the feature image being used for my first post. So if I want to have the feature image for raster and vector graphics here and so forth, I have to set featured images for each of these posts. Okay, so just keep that in mind, that in order to get the images populated, you have to set the feature image for this specific theme. So now with my pages, there goes our 1101, and we had used Classic Editor. So what I'm going to do is add another page. And let's say for this specific course, this is assignments. And this is where all my homework's going to go. Publish it. So now, since I didn't assign this to a specific category or anything like that, if I refresh it, it's going to show up on the top navigation bar outside of anything else. So let's say I want to move this assignment page under Art 101 so that when my professor comes in for this specific course, they'll hover over it and then know that all the assignments is under the assignment page. So to do that, I'm going to go back to my menus, hovering over Appearance, Menus, scroll down. Since we already set this to be automatic, all the pages that I create from here on out will be sent up to the menu structure. So you can reposition it. So if I wanted to move this up and put it before coursework, I could do so and just move it to the right. So now it's going to fall in between coursework and portfolio. So if I save that, refresh, it takes into effect. There it is. between portfolio and coursework. So now I want to move assignments under Art 1101. So scrolling down, scrolling back up, and then I'm going to simply drag and drop it there. And now, as you can see, it's indented with indentation signifying that it's a drop-down menu of wherever that is. So I'm going to save menu, right? Refresh. So it's no longer outside of my navigation menu here, so that when I scroll over it, there goes my assignments. Click on it, and then my professor will be able to see my assignment through there. Any questions in regards to menu structure, creating pages or posts? None? All right, let me check the chat just in case. And nothing. All right. So now the fun stuff, our themes. So as I mentioned before, everything is on a what you see is what you get basis, all right? Whatever the themes that they provide for you is what you have available for you. So here are all the available themes that you can use for your ePortfolio. You could live preview them to see how they look, or you just simply activate them and then use that specific theme. So what I like to do is use 2017 as an example. This is one of my favorite themes, I should say. So what I could do is simply click on live preview to see how my ePortfolio will look with this specific theme structure. So let that load up. And now what we're in currently is the theme preview mode or customize mode. So right now, this is how my site will look with the specific theme. First things first, I always make sure to check to see if my drop-down menus are working correctly, which they are. All right. And I scroll down and make sure right now this is what my home page looks like. So right now, by default, all my posts are being sent to my home page. Break it down to what you're seeing here. This is your site title, which we saw previously, but below that, that's your site tagline, which wasn't being displayed on the actual theme that was set by default. So these two are categorized under the site identity here. So if you want to change any of this up, anything you change here will give you a live preview here, but it won't take into effect until you activate and publish it. So right now, my site still looks like this, bland. All right, so until I activate and publish it, it will take into effect. So let's start changing things up. So let's say I don't want ePortfolio, just leave my first and last name. If I don't want the tagline, I could simply remove it. I could add my own if I wanted to, or just simply get rid of it. If I don't want text here at all at the top, I could simply remove it by unchecking that box and it removes it. All right, so, but I'm just gonna leave it for the time being. And you also have the option to add your logo here as well. One of the reasons why I like 2017 a lot better. All right, so every theme, keep in mind, every theme has different theme options. Every theme is not going to be the same. So there may be certain options in one theme and may not be available in another. So just keep that in mind when you're designing. All right, so for this one, this has different color themes, which I find great. So right now we have light selected. We can select dark to see how it looks. Pops it out a lot more, kind of like that. All right, or you could customize it and select a specific color, what have you. All right, but I'm just gonna leave it at dark. And then for the header color, let's select, let's say a little green. All right, so as you can see, it's starting to come along to the way I want it to be. So now for your header media, this is the header media here. So you can upload your own image if you want to. So let's say I wanted to add a new image to replace it. Keep in mind, every time you're working with a theme, there are different dimensions for a specific header, depending on what theme you selected. For this one, it's indicating that my design has to be at least 2000 by 1200. If it's larger than that, it's going to prompt you to crop it using its own embedded crop tool. If it's under that, it's just going to probably look exploded and a little pixelated because it basically blows up to whatever it tries to meet the dimensions of that. All right. So just keep in mind, if you're designing specifically for your theme, each theme has its own dimensions in order to upload the image. All right. So let's use the one that I already had uploaded as an example. So I'm going to use this one. All right. So I'm going to select and crop. So as you can see, it exceeded the size. So it's going to prompt me to crop just a portion of it. You don't have to use it. You could actually play around with the actual size of it and use just a portion of your image. But just for all intents and purposes, I'm just going to use this top section, crop. Let it load up, and there you have it. Now, what's cool about this specific theme here, you can enter a YouTube URL link. So I have one already established or copied already. Now, YouTube has these 8-hour relaxation videos that just has background, like say of the beach or forest, rainforest. That's one of them that I'm going to use as an example. So all I'm going to do is simply copy and paste that link and check this out. So it really pops your design, especially with your website. So it's a great tool to use and utilize if you want to make sure your page stands out. Now, since I'm in preview mode, it's playing automatically, but if I was supposed to publish this, I actually have to click play in order for it to play in the background like that. Right? I haven't found a way to get it to play automatically off the back, but there's probably an option somewhere under plugins or settings that will do that for you. So there is a pause button at the top here if I just want to pause it, but by default it's playing within the preview mode now. So as you can see, my name is actually being lost with that green. So I'm going to go back and change the color around just to make it pop a little more. Say a little brighter. I'm going to say yellow. I'll go. All right. So you can see it's starting to come along. To the left here, you have your actual menus again. So if you have to rearrange anything, you could do so through here as well. All right. Widgets. Now, widgets are great tools to add more options and fields within your ePortfolio page. So right now, by default, all my homepage, all my posts are being displayed. So you could add widgets on the block sidebar here. So let's say if I want to add, just an example, a calendar. Where is it? Here. I'll click on that. I can give it a title, let's say Fall 2021. And as you can see here, the widgets are only posted up on the actual post page where all my posts are being sent. So if I go to About Me, it's not going to show up. It's only showing up on wherever the posts are being displayed. All right, so just keep that in mind. I'm not liking that yellow. I'm just going to leave it back to text color of white. All right. So going back to widgets, if I want to add additional widgets, say if I want to add an RSS feed, which comes in handy. Some professors want you to have RSS feeds on here. So let's go to Wired Magazine Design. All right, so I'm going to take this link for this RSS feed and then add a new widget, RSS, and paste the URL here. And now I'm going to fine tune it. So let's say that I want a specific amount of stories that I want posted. So right now there's 10 being shown. That's a little too much in my liking. So I'm going to just narrow it down to like just 3, just to clean it up a bit. If the option to have display content is available, I'll select that. Add author and the date just to have that information here. So as you can see, you can fine tune it to however you want it, taking RSS feeds. It makes it easier for you to actually navigate to your favorite RSS feeds as well. So if you want to go to your page and just click on the link or just read it right there, you could do so. All right. If you want a little contact information on your site as well, you could just simply add a text widget here and just title it contact info. All right. And then of course you can have your phone, don't know why, web, email, and that's getting populated here. All right. So you can put any information here that you would like. All right, moving on to the last thing is our homepage settings. So with our homepage settings, you're going to notice that there's 2 options, static and your latest posts. So right now, by default, anytime someone visits my website, the homepage is going to display all my posts. So let's say I want the About Me to be the first thing that they see when they come to my site. So to do so, I'm going to select the static page. And now for my homepage, I want it to be, let's say, oh, not the About Me. I should say I want the Art 101 to be it. So I can do so by selecting it here, or you can add a new page, create it yourself through there, but I'm going to select Art 101. And now I have to designate where I want my post to go. So for this case, I'm going to select assignments. So now if I click home, Art 101 should show up. And as you can see, this is the header image here. This was the feature image that I had for the specific page that I created, which is being displayed. And then there goes Art 1101, right? So now for my assignments, if I go to assignments, here is where all my posts should be displayed. And there you have it. So if I'm happy with everything, I just simply hit activate and publish. All right, so now once I refresh, everything that I've done should take into effect. And there you have it. So it's playing by default off the back. Here's the home page, which is Art 1101. And then to view my posts, go to assignments, and here are all my posts being displayed. Any questions? No questions at all. You know what? Let me go back to my pages here. And then for the about me, I'm just going to make sure to publish this. So to quick edit, I'm just going to simply hit self draft, publish it. And then I'm going to make about me the first thing I want my audience to visit my site to see. So going back to homepage settings, I want the about me to be the first thing. And then I'm going to move all my posts instead of to assignments to Art 1101. Publish it. So now when we refresh, the about me should be the first thing they see when they go home. There it is. And now Art 1101 are all my posts. Any questions at all? None? All right. So once again, my name is Daniel Alfonso. If you have any questions, my email is dalfonso@citytech.cuny.edu. So you can email me here. And if you can fill out the, where's my Blackboard? The workshop feedback form will be greatly appreciated. Oh, gotta log in. Can't even spell my last name anymore.
If my students didn't do it yesterday, can I just use the one that you put into the chat next week?
Yeah, you can. That'll definitely help out too if they haven't did so. I can extend the time if they want to 3 o'clock before it disappears. Would that help out?
Mean for today?
Yeah, because right now I have it set to only last until 12. So they have an hour.
Yeah, maybe that would be helpful. I'll try to get them to do it before they leave.
Okay, not a problem. So let me just copy that link one more time.
But I don't know about yesterday's class because it was, they left right away. So
That's true. Okay. I think I only had 2, and then I only had 1, which was a little off. And I was like, that's why I had to confirm with you to see if that student was in your class, and that student wasn't in your class.
yeah.
So normally, since it's posted on our Blackboard section here, any student enrolled could just fill it out. So that's why I want to confirm to make sure that it was specifically the student from your course or not.
No. So they can go to the Blackboard course and do it. Is that
Correct.
right?
Yes. So here's the link. So once they're signed in, they can just click on this link, and then it should lead them to the actual survey.
Okay, that's great. Yeah, that's great.
All right. So if you have any questions, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, excuse me. Professor, I was wondering, is it possible if I can get a copy of the recording just in case?
I'm going to give it to I'm recording. Everyone can get the copy.
Okay.
All right. So, well, like I said, if you have any questions, if you break your site, feel free to email me. I'm here to help you out. All right.
It was great. Thank you so much.
You're
So
welcome.
helpful.
Anytime, Professor. Have a good day, everybody. Enjoy the day. All right.
Thank you. Yep. You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye. So I want you, it takes a little while to transcribe everything, and I'm kind of stuck here. Oops, there we are. Yeah. Please fill out that form. You could do it right from the, he said I'll go right into, you could do it right from the chat. So fill out that form now, please. And just a couple of things to clarify. It takes a long time for the the video to download. And then I have to put it into YouTube to get a link because it's too large. So it's going to take me, probably till Friday-ish to do. And I'll put it on the announcement page. And let me stop the recording.